Creating your own custom Mini seems to be easier than ever, and with a project I've got going at the moment, I wanted my own little kind of Lord of Grayscalp who's going to go with this 3D printed village that I'm putting together, and I was kind of stuck, and then I remembered Hero Forge. So in this video, I'm going to be trying it out, building my own little miniature, printing it off, painting it up, and just seeing what the quality is like and whether or not it's worthwhile checking out yourself. Now, this video isn't sponsored by Hero Forge or anything like that. I paid for this myself. And for those of you who aren't too sure what Hero Forge is, basically it's a miniature customization tool which allows you to put together your own little Mini. And you don't necessarily need a 3D printer to do this. You can customize it, build your Mini, and then either get it sent out to you in a range of different materials. Now, using the tool is actually really easy. You basically choose your race, your sex, and then you start going through it and you get into the more nitty-gritty details. They've got templates and I guess like presets and everything else. And then you can go in there and start to edit things like facial features, like ear size and everything else like that. You can go through the body and kind of mix it up and change things to your heart's content. And then you get onto all your clothing, which was really good fun. Now, I wasn't too sure what way I was going to take this. I basically knew I wanted a bold man, and that was pretty much about it. I then went through and I wanted something that was relatively fancy, but not too fancy. He's the Lord of Grayscalp. He doesn't need to be like some kind of weird noble or anything like that. And I just started mixing and matching different parts of armor. I also threw in this like kind of wolf cape and everything, and it looks pretty cool by the time it was done. Once you've put your miniatures together and you've decided on the pose and all the bits like the armor, the weapons, any accessories you want to throw in there, you then get the option to add color in as well. So if you are looking to paint this up once you receive it or once you've printed it off, you can start to mess about with colors. Now, I wish I did this beforehand. I'm happy with the colors I ended up going with, but if you want to kind of experiment and see what colors work well together, you can do that. And there's some really nice kind of like preset palettes, and then you can get really down to the nitty-gritty side of things. So if you want to change like these kind of like the armor on his thighs, I could change the color of the inside of it, and then I could change the rims on it, I could change parts of the boots. You can really mix and match all the different colors and see how it's going to look in 3D, which I think is a really nice thing if you're not too sure what colors you're going to be using. You also get an option to choose different bases, and you can add different bits of material onto those bases. I just chose to go with a standard base because I can do my own stuff, but that's there as well if you want to use it. Once I'd chosen my model, kind of got them posed and had all my bits and bobs ready to go, it's only $7.99, so I hit add to cart, hit buy, and it only took about 15 to 20 minutes for them to get the file over to me, so it's actually really, really fast. Now, one thing to bear in mind, if you're not great with supporting your models, they don't come pre-supported. As you'd imagine, obviously there's kind of so many different factors and stuff like that that need to go into it. But I just kind of threw it into Shift Box, tilted it back like 45 degrees, and then hit auto support. It's like my go-to thing. I'm awful doing my own support, so I always rely on auto support, and it came out perfectly fine. I printed it at 0.05mm layer height. I do kind of wish that I'd gone for 0.02 layer height, because on the top of his head, especially because he's a bold man, obviously he's going to be bold, you can start to see some of those layer lines. It's not too bad once I got the paint on there, but they're still just noticeable, and you probably see that on the camera towards the end. But yeah, you can just about see some of those layer lines. However, before we get into like the painting side of it, the quality of this is actually really surprisingly good, considering this is something that's customized and I threw together in Hero Forge and then got printed off. You do need to be mindful when you're putting it together that some of the things will then get in the way of each other. So for example, the cloak, I could put some shoulder pads underneath it that would then stick through the cloak, and you get this like clipping issue, so just, you know, keep an eye out for that. However, I was pretty good with this and I checked everything and I didn't have anything like that. The detail's really, really good. I've got to say, I'm really impressed with it. It's come out very nicely. There's a good amount of detail on there. Obviously, I can't speak for the stuff that they would send out directly to you, but the 3D printed bit, I think it's come out very, very nicely. And this was printed on the Elegoo Mars 3, so obviously I do get that high resolution screen, but I'm really happy with the way this turned off, and I guess it hopefully gives you an idea of the sort of quality you could expect by using something like this. So once it was printed, I did my usual Xenophil Prime, and then just hit him with a few speed paints. So Crusader Skin for the flesh, Runic Grey for all like the wolf cloak and everything else, and then Hardened Leather for basically all the leathery parts. For the gold, I hit it with a Liberator Gold by GW, and then I hit it with a gloss varnish, left it for 24 hours and came back and did my standard oil wash. Once that had dried, I hit it with a matte varnish, and I should have probably gone a bit more sparingly on the armor because the armor is very matte now. There's like no shine to it, so I'm probably gonna have to go back in and use the gold just to touch up some of those areas to give it a bit more shine. But overall, I'm really happy with the way it turned out. So if you're in the market to get a custom Mini for whatever reason, I've got to say I'm really impressed with it. They've got a really robust tool. I really enjoyed using it. There's a lot of customization options. If you want to do sci-fi minis, there's options for that as well. There's all different races. There's so many different things that you can play about with. So I'm happy with the way this turned out. The quality is really good as well. There's no sort of issues there that I'm looking at going, God, I wish that was more detailed or more defined or anything like that. I think all in all, it looks pretty good. The only one thing I would say with the quality is the sword looks a bit meh, and I've got to say all of the weapons were, I mean, they're okay, but if you are doing something like a hero unit, it would be nice to kind of have some more, I don't know, weapon customization options that just looked a little fancier and had a bit more detail to them. Apart from that, everything else is really good quality. So hope that's helped if you have been in the market to get a custom Mini. It's definitely worthwhile at least checking out, having a play with their tool, and then if you want to play around with like all the paint and color options, it's got that option in there too. So I'm really impressed with it, happy with how he's turned out. So he's now going to go to the little 3D printed Village of Grayscalp, which hasn't been completed yet, but is a work in progress. Hope you've enjoyed that video. If you have, hit the like and subscribe button, come along for some more content in the future. And if you haven't already, head on over to my Discord channel where we talk all things hobby. And if you really want to support the channel, head on over to my Patreon because it just helps me to keep funding random little projects like this so I can bring more content to you in the future. In the meantime, stay safe. If you do one of these, let me know in the comments below. I'd really like to know what sort of thing you've put together. I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.